that is some introduction to section tool. So now we are going to begin how to work on this section concept based on these layouts and UI controls. Okay, so it's a simple concept only. Anyone can easily understand this, and you can just navigate using the, like, you can use the required parameters from the section tool. So for doing this, I think yesterday only I created this section tool. Generally, the steps are, if you want to open a section, go to user interface category. So you need to click on the section. So yesterday I've given the name as customer section. I'm going to open the same now. See, if you expand this user interface category, yesterday I opened the section name, right? So the same I'm going to open now directly. But initially, if you see, when you open this section page, some design tab you'll be getting. So inside the design tab, template selection will be there. So by default, you'll be having a template called column. But if you want to change any configuration in the template, you'll be having some other templates will be there. But mostly we'll go with the default template only. So in the default template, but if you want to edit the design under that, there is a link in the top, convert to full section editor, some link will be there. You need to click on that to open the design, main design page will open. So for that you will be getting some pop-up, you need to click on that. So then the main design page will open and it will be like this. So, and the name of the layout you can see here is dynamic layout. So as should I discuss, right? So inside the section, so you'll be having the layout types will be dynamic layout. Dynamic layout meaning is it is going to support any kind of UI design, like the design which we are creating in the layouts here. It will support in any device, like it is a tab or if it is a laptop or if it is a mobile, we can open application under any device and automatically based on the device configuration or device height and width, the rows, that is the page rows and columns will automatically align. See, generally a web page contains what, a web page is a combination of rows and columns, okay, and it contains like it contains fields will be there, images will be there, paragraphs will be there, like many other controls will be mapping, right? So all those things and all, according to the size of the device, it is going to automatically align. So like that, PEGA supports this dynamic UI, dynamic user interface. It is going to support by default. And inside the layout, you can see, now we are going to begin the configuration. See, generally to add a property inside a layout, see, if you see all your property list come under the data model category. See the list of all your properties you can view here. So now if I want to drop a property or if I want to add your property inside the layout, see left side of your property name, so there will be some dotted options. So you can see some dotted lines will be there. So just select these and drag and drop inside the layout. See, to add a property, so just left side of the property, just to select that and drag and drop. Okay. So select this and you can drag and drop. See, like this, see, if I click on the name and try to drop it, see, it will not show any configuration, means it will not allow to add any property. See, the exact way to add a property inside a layout is, see, on this dotted line, if you place the pointer, so your property is selected. Then just drag and drop the property inside the layout. And if you see the layout template and all, see, when I add a property, see this entire row it is going to take. See your property per row. See the default format. See, first of all, before understanding these adding properties, see in the layout and all, beside the layout name, we can see one name is there, stacked is there, right? See, that is the default format. Okay, actually, in some versions, the same thing we'll call it as default will be there. Even in present version, so there is an option called, see, both default and stacked are same. There is no difference. Okay. Actually, in 8.4, anybody is doing this thing, you may get the name as default. Okay. But both are same, guys. There is no difference. If I select default also, mostly the alignment will be same. Okay. Nothing much difference between these two types. So both are mostly same configuration only will be there. And there are some options. See, what is this third one is inline. See, what is this inline means? See, the per row, it will allow 5 controls or 5 properties it is going to allow if you are going to use inline. See, for example, if I'm going to select inline, see, side by side, it will allow some 5 controls. See, let's see. Let's say the number of controls maximum it will be 5. Let's test once. So per row it is allowing 5 control. Okay, more than 5 also. It means if it is a alignment is like this means okay it will allow 5, but more than 5 also means until it fits the page. Okay, suppose until it fits the page according to the size. So means generally we don't use this for adding properties. Any header options or any header controls are there, then we are going to use it. Okay, but see the alignment for inline if you are using, so approximately 3 4 5 6 sometimes and all depend upon the property type, 5 or 6 it is going to allow. Okay, so but if it is again basically we don't use the inline for the property mapping, we'll be using this for the other controls like links, buttons, menus, or in the header option. Like see if you see in the header option, PEGA application is also developed using PEGA only. In the PEGA whatever we see, that is nothing but a header control which contain this inline template. See, like menus are there, right? So that come under inline template actually. Okay. So and there is an option called, okay, mostly we don't use the inline for the property mapping. So there is an option called double and triple. These two mostly will be using. See, double if I select, see the alignment of the page will be like this. Like left per row it will allow two properties it is going to allow. Like left and right side combination it is going to take. So if I take as a triple, simply it will allow the three properties per row. So according to your design, see this is the different formats you'll be having in a layout. So according to the alignment, according to requirement and all, you can choose these settings and all. So mostly we prefer double. So I'm going with a double format. Okay. And other thing is now inside the layout only if you want to give a title for this page, okay, there are refresh conditions, visibility condition. These we are going to understand in the next 3 4 classes. We are going to understand this. Okay, in the next week classes mostly we'll understand what are refresh conditions and visibility conditions. I'll discuss later. Container format actually we can keep it as default. Actually none or default we can keep. See, container format means mostly like how see the alignment. If you see the look and view will be slightly different. Okay, by default, if it is none means you'll be having a normal plain view. But if you see some graphical view or like some more view, if you want to like a somewhat view, if you need any like a grand view, if you need means you can go with the default option. Otherwise it will be none, but now if you see the look is somewhat better compared to the none option. Just only thing is the container format how you want to look, accordingly some other formats also will be there if you want to use, like case icon, mobile header, like that some information. So these are all different options you'll be getting. Just try those options like how you want to look in the live environment, so that all you can try to use the options and change the options and check it. Okay, that all you can try it, you can play with these options. Okay. Okay, so like look will be slightly different for each control, but go with either none or default, you can use most of the cases. Okay. Now, so after this refresh condition and visibility, I'll discuss later. And there will be some other formats also. I'll come back to that. Okay, there will be some other formats in the UI that also I'll discuss later. And coming to the presentation tab, see in the dynamic layout maximum presentation tab, we don't do any changes. Mostly the settings will be 99% cases it will be default. Okay, there is some option called float actually. See if I select left means all the properties will align to the. Actually, we should not set the format, but generally, if you don't set the format means then you can see the view. But actually, no need to change any presentations. If you don't set the format, if it is a default or stacked means you can identify this. So as of now, no need to worry about the presentation and actions when we will be applying means if any refresh conditions are there or visibility conditions are there, then we can use this actions option or any controls if you're using like buttons, links, menus if you're using, then we'll set the actions in the UI design. Okay, so any options which are not discussed here, it will be discussed in the next examples. Okay, and here okay, this is not required. So this one is a title for the page. So if you want to add a title for your particular page and all, so you can enable this checkbox. So I'm going to give the title for this. And heading levels will be there. See, one is the maximum size, and if you want to like minimize the size of the heading, so you can just like a 6 will be the small and like that. One is the maximum. So accordingly, you can choose the heading size. See, if you want to include any icon for this particular, like before the heading, if you want to include any icon or any value and all, so there is some checkbox is there. So it's like PEGA contains some icons, or if you want to load any new icons or images in the coming classes when I explain about UI controls, I'll discuss. But as of now, see, PEGA contains some built-in icons. I'm going to choose any. See, if you click on these find option, some PEGA default icons will be there. I'm going to use any one just to understand this thing. Okay, so like that before ever header title, if you need any icon or any particular small icon information or any title also you can mention for the icon also. You can give some title for the icon. So that all if you want to configure, you can define under the settings. Okay. So like that visibility header bar and all if you want to like a collapsible bar will be there, like a normal default one will be there. Okay, visibility means always it should be header should be visible or not, or based on some particular condition if you want to apply, or based on condition if you want to display the header bar, all those settings will be there. Okay, so not mandatory, so we can keep the default settings in most of the cases. Okay, so these are the basic settings you'll be getting inside the layout settings. Okay, but actions when to use I'll discuss later. Maximum presentation no need to change. In the general settings means about the refresh and visibility we'll understand later. And now come back to this see, in a layout we can also include sub layouts also we can include, because here I want my design right now, all the properties alignment I want to the left side of the page. See, basically in a layout I can add sub layouts also I can add. See here, if you see the first menu, structural menu will be there in this. It is related to the layout types. Means in your particular section, any layouts if you want to use, other layouts I'll be using soon. But if you want to use any layouts in the section, mean this is the menu we'll be having. And for the controls wise, see basic controls means it will come under data capture and pickers will have the basic controls. And some additional controls will be there in a section come under action, like button, link, menus, attachments, and data display contains some more additional controls. Okay, so like that all the controls like property controls or additional controls will be available here. Okay, so now the requirement is I want to use all these properties in left grid of the page. Okay, see right now the alignment is left and right side, right? But I want to use all the properties to the grid one of the page, because in the grid two later I want to add some paragraphs, other images and other things I want to load. So now align all these properties to the left grid of the page. Okay, so generally what you can do, don't add the properties initially when you are going to do this exercise. So first of all, you will be opening this page, right? What you will do first is you will set the format of the layout. Open the layout settings and set the format as double. Then after that you can add the title and icon I showed here right now, but if you want to add the icon you can also include the icon. Okay, so then after this the display will be like this. Now I'm going to add the sub layout. So what you will do means don't add the properties directly. So under this layout one, add a sub layout and it will become 1.1. So when you add a sub layout here, so just we need to drag and drop the layout. If you go to the structural menu, you'll have the drag and drop option. So if you go to this menu, so this is the layout. So drag and drop inside one, so it will become 1.1. See, for the 1.1 we don't set double or triple. See, already it is divided, right? This grid is divided into, main layout is divided into two parts. See, for the sub layouts and all, again we don't divide the grid into like double or triple, but some other formats will be there. See, now for example, let's drop one or two properties inside 1.1. First of all, see, select the property and drop it inside 1.1. Like I'm adding last name. So select the property and drop it inside 1.1. Like I'm adding full name. See, like if you see the alignment of the, okay, add the remaining also. What are the properties I'm having here? I'm also going to drop the remaining properties inside the 1.1 only. One second, it is not dropped. Okay, phone number is there. Okay, now see here, now all the properties are under 1.1, and if you see the alignment here, see the name is in the top and text box in the bottom. See, most of the layouts and all, it will be having the alignment. By default alignment will be name on top and text box in the bottom. But see, many pages nowadays name will be left and text box will be to the right panel, right? So what I need to do means some other settings are there, we can use them. So if you go to other option, there will be one setting called inline labels left. Okay. See, there are two options: simple list with labels left and stacked with labels left. Any one option. Simple list means, see, if I just select simple list means the same thing will be getting, nothing difference. Just there will be space will be removed between the fields. Okay, simple list and all. The space previously we used to have a small space will be there, but that is means it will be reduced. Space will be reduced between each field. Okay, so we don't prefer simple list in any requirement. But if you see, there are two other things. See, one is simple list with labels left and stacked with labels left. See, simple list with labels left, if you're using, again, the space will be reduced and now the labels will come to the left side. That is, the name will come to the left and text box to the right side, and the space will be reduced for between each control. Okay, but if I choose the other type, so which view is better? You can just mention now. See, if I go with other option called stacked with labels left, see, this view will give some space between each field. So this is also going to move the name to left and text box to the right. But what is the difference between the previous one and this one is we have a small gap between each field. See, previous option, if I select, the gap is totally reduced. There is no gap. Totally all the fields are attached to each one. So if you need a small gap between each and every field, you can go with this default template called stacked with labels left. I'll be using this one regularly. So like that, what are the remaining properties we have? You can drop the remaining properties also in the same 1.1. See, but in the coming classes in the same design, see, if I need any other design in the right side of the page, I'm going to drop a 1.2, it will become. So another sublayout we can drop it inside that. See, like that, not only 1.2, if want to divide this particular layout further into more layouts, if want to divide, like 1.3, 1.4, also you can divide this entire panel into different groups. Also you can divide, means in the same layout you can also include multiple sub layouts. You can include like 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, like that you can include. Again, inside the 1.2 you can also include sub layout, also you can include. See, not only again in 1.2, still in 1.2 also you can include some sub layout. Sub layout you can include. Okay, actually that I will show in the next exercises, because in the next exercise I want to show you some condition. When first and last name are given, I want to display the full name automatically. So whenever I give first and last name, I want to automatically display the full name automatically. Okay, so that also, see, in that case the full name you can include in a sublayout, and whenever these two inputs are given by the user, this value must fill automatically and display in a read only format. In that case you can go for the separate layout also you can use, or you can keep the same also, no problem. Okay, so now let's say actually you can delete this layout, because in the coming classes I'll be using that. Okay, whenever there is a requirement again in the right side of the grid, like in the grid 2, if there is any other requirement, then I'm going to add the 1.2 layout. As of now, I'm only keeping 1.1, and I'm going to drop the remaining fields. So age is okay, state I'm going to drop inside this, then pin code I'm going to drop, then city, After state, I'm adding city. Then phone number. Okay, phone number is already there. So gender, I'm going to drop before age. Then email address is there already. Date of birth is there. So country we need to add. So before state, I'm going to drop country. So like that easily we can do the just mapping, just to drag and drop the fields and just see the preview. Now if you want to see the preview for this page and regularly keep saving the design, so we can regularly, frequently, any modifications are done when you open the rule. So regularly keep on the save button. Okay. Now see, we can check the preview, how it is going to look. See, this is the development environment and also run environment. And here only we can see the preview for the page. So if you want to see the preview, go to actions. For every rule you'll be getting some option, but see, for every rule we can't check the preview. It is a UI page, right? UI pages, right? So we can see the preview, but not for every rule. No need to check the preview and no need to run that one. But this is a UI design, right? So here we can see the preview for the page. So if you go to actions, so click on this preview. So we can see how it is going to look in the live environment. You'll get the complete preview you'll be getting. But the buttons and all we didn't generate, right? See, buttons and all no need to add manually. So PEGA flow configuration, when you map this UI inside the process and flow, automatically buttons will be generated. So there are some cases where we need to add custom buttons, but in this requirement, I'm not adding any buttons manually. So in the next classes, where to these buttons will be created on Monday class, you'll understand. And see here in this preview page, I can't enter and submit. I can give the input, but so there is no option to submit the data. But where we can submit the data means when I map my UI design inside the flow, I can submit the data. Okay, but here only how it is going to look, you can just check the preview of the page, you can check it. Okay. Now, other things I want to show is, so again up to here I'll do a small review. So first of all, like this, we will open the section. See, once we open the section, you'll be getting a default template and choose this option, convert to full section editor. And after that, you'll get this design page will open with a layout name called dynamic layout. But before adding properties only, first set the format of the layout as double, and under these you can add a header and title you can add. So if you enable this display header and title checkbox, you can include any header and title for this page, or any icon if you want to include, you can add the icon also. And other thing is, now once this layout one is created, now under the layout one I need all the property alignment under the grid one of the page. So if you need left and right means directly drop it, guys. Okay, if you want the display like left and right side of this page means, or per row three fields if you need means, you can take inline grid triple, or per row if you need two fields means, you can take inline grid double. So if you need the alignment like directly left and right, if you need the alignment means, you can drop it directly in layout one also, you can drop it. But here I want to show you the alignment of fields. I want all the fields in the left grid of the page, whereas in the first grid of the page I need all the property display. So I'm adding a sub layout, and for the sub layout you can choose this option called stacked with labels left, you can choose. So after this setting, and then you can now one by one each property you can select and drag and drop inside the panel. Okay, inside the 1.1 you can drop all the properties, so you can see the preview how it is going to look. Okay, so now other things I'm going to discuss in this is, see some internally, see in the section rule I told you we can change the control. See, any control if you want to change for any property, it is possible through section design. Okay, for example, let's see, here drop down is there. If I want to change to some search or autocomplete control, I can change. See, property level, if you see, uh, type directly it will not allow, but see there is an option called type, but it is read only. But it is a chance is there, through control we can change, but not mandatory, guys. But in the UI design, sometimes if you use the property, see sometimes what happens. See, the same country property in some pages I can use as a text input, in some pages I can use as a drop down, in some other page I can use as a autocomplete. So like that, if you want to particularly change in the design wise, you can change in the design level, like section level we can change the control. For example, in this I want to go with a So open the settings. See, present control is drop down. So if I want to change this to autocomplete, so there is any picker, but any picker it will not support for this. Let me check once. See, flagged fields before submitting. See, because so here required fields are there that I'll discuss later again. So if any static records are there, it is not supporting. It will support for dynamic records. But better go for the other option called. See, this one in the next classes, I'll tell you guys what is this data page. Actually, if it is any dynamic data is there means it is going to support. But what is dynamic data? We'll understand in the next week classes. We'll understand. So that's why I'm not showing this one right now. We'll go with autocomplete. Autocomplete it will also support the static records. It will support. See here, radar button drop down in autocomplete will support static data, but any picker or multi-select will support only dynamic. What is dynamic data? You'll understand soon. So now go with autocomplete. It will support any static data also. See, autocomplete is nothing but a search control. See, yesterday did I show the gallery thing? See, the difference between in the same control, once open configure. So if you need a more information regarding the UI things and all, if you go to gallery and UI elements, you can identify the controls, how it is going to work. See, if you want to know the difference between drop down, autocomplete, and any picker, see, they may ask you what is the difference between these three. See, drop down means, see, in the down arrow, you'll be selecting the option, any one option you can select. That is a drop down. Directly, there is no search option or nothing. Directly, if you click on down arrow, you have to choose the option. But what is any picker? Any picker will give you a search option. One search, small search box will be given. So here you can search. You can, even though you can directly select also, but still in the any picker you will be getting one search box. So if you type any regarding that, you can just select the record. So that is the difference between any picker and drop down. Like that, if you see autocomplete control where we have selected right in the country property. See, autocomplete how you'll be getting a direct search will be there. There is no particular control called search, but there is a direct search box will be there. Suppose if I search with any letter directly, see any picker, if you see, if you click on down arrow, then search will be getting. But here in autocomplete, no need to click on down arrow. Directly search option will be there. Or if you click on the pointer or down arrow, you can see all the options. Like in your keyboard, if you click on down arrow, you can see all the list of options under the autocomplete. See, a small difference will be there, guys. So which one is your requirement in the design? You have to go with that. Drop down means only down arrow will be there. Any picker will have a search with down arrow with search option. Autocomplete means direct search option will be there. Autocomplete is also called as search control. Okay, so direct search will be there in the autocomplete. So like that, if you want to know means just go to UI gallery and just verify the difference between each and every control. Now come back to this design. So I can change the control for any property like this. See, if I update here at property level, it will be drop down only, guys. Okay. So if I update in this section, only in this section only this control is changed. But in the property level, again, your country property will have the drop down only it will be having. Okay. At property level, again, it will have only drop down only in this design it is updated to autocomplete. Like that, if you want to see the next setting, see like that many other settings will be understanding now. See here, I want to change the label for this property. See, in the label value, generally we can give spaces or any name we can enter. See, property name is first name, but if you want to change the label for this, see, label means I want to give a space between first and name. Okay, so in that case, so anytime for any property to update the label, disable this checkbox. So if I disable the checkbox, then it will allow the value to update. Then you can give any space. So property name is first name without space, but actual label display name can be anything, guys. Okay, display name in the UI can be anything. Okay, like that you can change for any property like that. If you want to modify, you can change it. Even for full name, if you want to give a gap between the full and name, you can apply in the label value, you can update. So email address also, if you want to change the if you want to enter any gap between the property both the email and address. So like that you can try for some other fields. So that is one setting. And see here, there is one setting called required field. See, mostly this property, label value, default, all these settings will be common for all the fields. But if it is a drop down or radio button or other things, you will be getting some other additional configuration called list source. I'll discuss later. But all these things will be there for every type here. Every property type will have all these options. Okay. So overall, I'm showing for one or two fields like that. The same will apply for every property type. It will apply the same feature. Okay, like required option and all. If you see what is required feature. See in the UI pages, if you see some fields and all, mandatory fields will be there. Compulsory user must enter input for this field. Or in some applications we see star mark will be getting, where you need to compulsory give input, otherwise you can't submit the form. So like that, any fields if want to set, so required option you have to select always. Then you have to compulsory give input for this field. Without giving input you can't submit the form. Okay, so like that you'll be having some settings in the required option. Like this, if you see length also you can set. If you go to the presentation tab, see there will be read only options. I'll show you later. Whenever I apply conditions, I'll show you read only options. And see here, basically for every type, every property type, some default specific size auto will be there. But if you want to set, that is default, no need to change that, first thing. And other thing is minimum and maximum character length. For example, sometimes and all, when any username if you are setting, or any other some properties if you are defining, suppose if you want to set like minimum length 5 characters and maximum length 8 characters, like that if you want to set, so you can mention the just character length. If you want to set here, you can set, like it is also works as some kind of input validation. It will work. Okay, like if you want to set any fixed characters, if you want to set for any field means, you can set in the presentation tab. So then any user give the input for those fields, only it will allow with minimum 5 character and maximum 8 character length, only it is going to allow. Okay, that you can try. But not required for every field. Very rare cases, some particular requirement addition, any particular specific requirement is there, then only we'll be using this option. Then other thing, I'll again come back to the presentation tab. Then in the other settings, if you see in this, so property, no, we know property name will be added. Label, we know. Default value, see default value not required, but see if I'm setting any default value here, so during this page, anywhere if you're loading this page with this first name property, every time the default value will display automatically. If you want to remove, you can remove and update with a new value, but always the default value will display for that particular field. Okay, not required, but just option I'm just using. How to use I'm showing. Then placeholder I will show. This is option required for any static or dynamic records. See static records, when I give already we have given some caption, but this option will be using for reader buttons and drop downs will be using. I'll show you in the next classes. When dynamic records I'm going to load, I'll be showing these options. Okay, and helper text I'll show you now. See helper text means, see any uh, particular field. For example, in the PEGA, when email ID property, when type is taken as email, automatically helper text will be there. If you want to see here, for email address property, by default PEGA internally defines some helper text. See what is helper text. If I place the cursor on the email ID property, it will show you please include an @ in the email address. Okay, so because like that, for your user defined properties also, if you want to define any helper text, like what kind of input must be given. Suppose if you are giving any password field, for password it must have like a, it should have special characters, uppercase, letters, numbers must be included in the password, like that. If you want to give any particular helper text means, we can include in that option. Let's see one simple example. So helper text and all, by default it will be none for every field. So there are two options: always visible, or if you place the cursor on that field, then only that helper text should display. Okay, so better go with so always visible means below the field, not in the preview page, but in the flow level. When you include this, below the property, always this helper text will display, but not best practice. most of the cases this help icon with overlay that is best preferred. Okay, so tooltip is also not recommended. So this is the one recommended in the present versions. So now what is the message, like what is that value, text value if you want to display there? So you have to type here. Okay, just I'm giving some text value. So this will display when the pointer is cursor is on the first name property. This will display in the display as a helper text. See the preview again. Okay, this default value not deleted, but see if I cursor is not there on the field means it will not show any. But if I move the cursor on the field, it will show that helper text. Okay, these are all things in other technologies means it's a difficult process. All these things if you want to add in other technologies or in programming technologies, it is very difficult process, and coding and programming lot of things are needed. But in PEGA, all these configuration, UI templates, and whatever these things you are going to require fields, everything and all you'll be getting on handy. Just you have to open the property settings and define them in a simple way and easy way. Okay, so that's the reason PEGA design configuration or UI configuration and all, it's very easy to design. Okay, now let's see some other options. Let's remove this default value. Now let's see some other example. So there is visibility conditions I'll show later. In the next examples I'll show you. When I add the second UI design, I'll be working on these visibility conditions and refresh conditions. Not today. And disable, we don't disable the property anytime. It will be, see, if you disable means always if you select means we can't use that property or we can't use that property details anywhere in the application. So disable will be never always by default. No need to change that. And there is one setting called see, other thing is generally you'll be having some alignment issues will be there. Alignment will be there in PEGA. Alignment means text alignment. See, when user give the input for these fields, see some fields and all it will allow left alignment, some fields will allow right alignment, like that. See, majority of the fields if you see, it is having like left alignment only it is having. Okay, majority of the fields if you see. See, but age will have right alignment here. See, age property, if you see here the type is integer. Actually, age is having the type as integer. See, remaining and all, if you see phone number is also type is phone, and pin code is also even though number we are giving, the type is text for this pin code property. So whenever these integer or decimal types if you're giving, the alignment value will be by default, it will be right side alignment, right alignment will be there. See, this is left. See, for all the remaining fields, the alignment value input alignment is left side is there. But for the age property, or if you are taking any decimal fields or anything, it will be having by default right alignment will be there. See, generally when majority of the fields are having left side, so you can change the alignment for this one single property. So if you just change for this property, it will be fine. So in this example, where to change the alignment means, see, for age we are changing, right? Open age property, go to presentation. So here in the you can see one option called alignment. By default, see, remaining all the types will be having left only, but for this right is there. So change this to left. You can change, because see, when majority of the fields are having one side, you can other one or two fields are having opposite means you can change those two fields or three fields you can change. So now I updated to left side. See the preview now. Now the alignment for the age also moved to left side. Okay, so like that you can check this. See, after you update any settings, see again here, see the gender presentation by default, the radio buttons actually here in the in this page you are getting like below, but in the if you want to change the alignment of this particular button horizontal, if you want to give, there will be some settings here, horizontal settings will be available. Okay, but not recommended. Always we prefer vertical only most of the scenarios. But options will be there if you want to display whether the orientation of that particular buttons will be vertical or horizontal. We can decide. Okay, and like that, some options will be understanding in the coming classes in detail again. more settings we are going to understand in the next examples. So apart from this, now for every section rule, so now we are going to understand these next rules. See, there are combination rules will be there. See, UI design means not only section, so there will be many other combination rules will be there, like flag action, local action, harness. Okay, but initially today we are going to understand about the rule called flaction rule. Okay, see, any section if you are creating, so compulsory we need to include in a rule called flaction. So first of all, let's see what is flaction. So first of all, so save it, and anytime if you close this now, again and again if want to see, will be section means once we design regularly, we'll open that and we'll modify the design, set the different actions will be setting, and different settings we are going to change. So anytime if you want to open your rules, so keep on refresh after your rules are created, refresh your explorer, or else there is, if you right click on your class, so there are different ways to refresh the data in the application. See, if you right click on your class, so refresh class or refresh all, if you can click refresh all means all the classes data it is going to refresh, or you can refresh the browser. See, sometimes and all pega may not respond, sometimes it will stuck and it may not respond anything if you try to open, or if you click on anything it may not open. So refresh the browser, or still there are issues means any issues are there with application, just log off and log in, everything will be cleared. Okay, still any there are some other issues are there with application, you can't open any option or you can't open anything, just log off and log in again to the application, maximum any issues because here it is running on internet server. Sometimes the server depend upon your system configuration, if system is slow, sometimes maybe some option or some feature may not work properly or may not be work properly. So in that cases, you can just if it is very anything is stuck in the application, just log off and log in back. Maximum it will be resolved. Okay. So like that, any issues if you get during using the application or when working on the application, so there are different ways to refresh the data. Either Explorer is one option, right click on class and refresh all, or refresh class, or refresh the browser, or log off and log in. Then again everything will refresh in the application. Okay. Now we'll see one small rule. See, like how here PEGA rules means like mapping, like connectivity will be there. One rule will be calling in other rule, and other rule will be using in some other rule. Like the different mappings we are going to do, or will be calling one rule in other rule we are going to use. So here, if you see, whenever a property is there, property we are using in section. So now section we need to use in a rule called flaction. It's mandatory. So if any section is there, means so in order to map it in the workflow, so compulsory we need to define a rule called flaction rule. So it's a mandatory step. So if you create some 100 sections in application, means 100 fractions we need to define. So there are other supporting rules also we have. We'll understand that later. But any UI design, if you're connecting inside the flow, because see, 80 to 90 per 80 design 80% of the designs will map it in the flow. Okay, so in that case, any UI design, if you're mapping inside the flow, compulsory for that we need to add this flaction rule. Now, what is this flaction? So, how to map the UI design in the flow means through flaction only we can map it. See, directly the section name, I can't call it inside the flow directly. Through a interface called flaction only we can map it in the flow. That is the PEGA structured design. Okay. If you want to call your UI design in the flow means only by using flaction name only we can map it in the flow rule. So, like how many sections you define in application, for every section we need to add this flaction rule. Okay, it's a container, like whatever the UI design you're creating in the application, for every section we need to add this flaction rule. So the more information about this flaction, it's in older versions and all, flaction is also, even now it is a user interface rule, but when you try to open this rule, you have to open from the process category. So even though flaction is also UI rule only, no doubt about that, but to when opening this rule in the present versions up to 7.2 and 3 versions and all, it is available under the user interface category only, but later they updated this name from user interface category to process category. Apart from that, nothing different. So if you open the rule, if you want to open the rule in the application, you have to go like this. So if you right click on the class, go to process category and open this name flaction. See, first enter the name. So I'm giving some name as see customer flaction. See, flaction short form is FA. Most of the flaction names in your applications will be ending with FA. Okay. So like before that, exactly what is the section name you give? So customer section means customer FA we have to mention. Okay, so that in the application hundreds of sections and fractions will be connecting, right? So at that time, suppose fraction again if you want to open in the middle of application, so if you give any random name, so for section if you give ABC and for fraction if you give XYZ, so it is difficult to identify for which section which fraction is given. It is difficult to identify. So mostly for section and fraction the first name will be giving the same. So open this. See, in the fraction right now, only one parameter we have to provide, that is, we have to call your section inside the fraction. There is a button here, like I mean to say, there is a down arrow or auto complete option. So here we need to call our section name in the down arrow. So you need to see, if I just click on the pointer, it will not show the section name. You need to click on down arrow in your keyboard. See, in the keyboard, use the down arrow option. See, so many will have doubt here. The name directly it will not populate here. Click on down arrow in keyboard, then you can select, you can see once you save the section, then you can see the details here in the down arrow. So select that, and so that is the fraction. But in the fraction, so what is the fraction purpose is now, it's a container of section. Okay, so fraction is a container of section. What are the design I created in the section rule, the same thing we are going to call it in the fraction. But why we are going to call, because your UI design if you want to connect in the flow, what is flow on Monday class you are going to understand. So the UI design if you want to connect in the flow means through fraction only we can map it. So without a fraction, so the UI we can't map it inside the flow design. So it's a mandatory step after creating a section and saving that. So immediately we can define this fraction rule. And see, after the name is given, see inside the fraction, not only just section, there will be some other actions also will be there. See, business logic we can add. See, business logic means in PEGA there are some rules are there. In next week we are going to understand those activities, data transforms, and also any page validations if you want to define. See, internally based on type validation will apply, or some validations at property level we can apply by opening some settings. Apart from that, some input validations or some client or server validations will be there. Okay, don't worry, we'll understand in the coming classes. So any validations also we have to define, and we can map it inside the fraction. But what is mandatory step in a fraction is giving section is mandatory, remaining and all optional. If requirement is there we need to define, if requirement is not there you have to just mention the section name, but not today. In the coming classes, what are validations? Okay, in the action tab, what are these business logic related rules and all we are going to understand, like data transforms and activities will be there. So how to use them we are going to understand. So like that in application any UI is created means, so the mandatory step is, so giving these section name inside the fraction is required. So like that, so fraction rule is very simple. It's a process rule. We'll open that from process category, and after opening that you need to give the section name and save the fraction rule. Okay, and when to define these business logic and when to define these validations we'll understand soon. Okay, at the time of UI mapping they don't add these conditions or business logic directly. Later after again the requirement will be step by step, it will be there. So whenever they get the requirement for the business logic and validations we can define those things. Okay, so that I'll discuss soon. Okay, within 1 to 2 weeks classes we'll understand what are these business logic and validations. So now, so for your section, so what are the section name we created, just call it inside this fraction rule. Okay, so that is about today's topic. So try to complete this, any pending exercise and pending practicals are there. So there is no class on Saturday, Sunday. So in the weekend, any pending exercise are there, you can complete in the weekend. So again, we'll resume the classes from Monday again. Okay. So any questions,
Okay,
anyone?
sir. Sir, I have a question. That
Yeah.
you say that in the development studio, there's the three application as
Okay.
you in your screen. But in my screen, it is only that it shows that the only two application.
See, once check whether you are in the framework or implementation application.
Okay, I have a framework application. Only it shows only the three
Maybe at the
application.
time of creating the application, you may choose, see, check it once again. See, maybe when you're creating your implementation, if you directly select the build from scratch on top of the default framework only, it will be created. So once check it. So whether you
Okay.
created the
The, another
implementation
question. Okay.
under your framework or under the default framework. Suppose if you
Hmm.
create under default framework means it will only show the two names only, it will show. Okay.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
you see, if you see PEGA platform and under that directly, if you see this auto insurance means that is
Mm-hmm.
directly on top of the PEGA platform only you created this setup. Okay, so
Hmm.
make sure if you correct means you can't change the means once application is generated means we can't update that. So again, try to create one more application with a small change in the name. At least one letter you can update in the name and create again
Hmm.
once again create a new application. Okay.
Okay. The another question is that just then you say that this platform is not workable. That where Alpha Auto data application is workable, but this Alpha Auto work is not workable in my computer.
It is not showing in your application.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe create one more application again and check it. So nothing like that. See, when you
Okay.
log into the application, it will show the default.
Mm-hmm.
See, you don't change, we don't change also, right? By default, when you
Mm-hmm.
log into the application, it will show the work only, it will show. It will not show data or any other. See, by default, it will
Mm-hmm.
show the work only. Once check it, maybe log off and log in again and check it.
Okay.